Aye. It's the Ranger Command Power Hour.
Today on the Power Hour, Episode 1, Ranger Roll Call, recorded January 15th, 2014. Welcome to the first episode of the Ranger Command Power Hour on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. It's time to Ranger up with your hosts. I'm Eric, also known as Trekkie B47.
I'm AP, also known as Secret Ranger Fan.
And I'm Zach, also known as the Cinema Slob.
This episode is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop, official sponsor of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. For high-quality business cards, flyers, banners, cut vinyl, and more, visit americajoy.com. Hey guys, this is the first episode.
Yay!
Woo!
After some technical difficulties, we finally got it working.
I was able to go into the morphing grid and, with Alpha and fix it. Big tube of technology that somehow represents all of the Power Rangers. But we're finally here, and we're getting things set up, and I'm really excited to get this going. How about you guys?
Very excited.
Yeah, this is gonna be good.
So, just a little backstory on how this all started. I was just sitting at home like I usually do on a Saturday, and I was just thinking, I already do a podcast, but I think it'd be cool to just have a podcast on Power Rangers. And I just tweeted it like, I should do a podcast on Power Rangers. And I think a lot of people on my Twitter were like, do it, go for it. And I quickly assembled the team. I put out the call. Thank you guys for responding and going to be a part of this. So we just began to brainstorm. And so that's how it all kind of quickly came together. I already registered the domain. We've got stuff set up. I'm going to be starting the webpage this weekend, and hopefully before the episode goes live, so everyone will be able to check us out.
Yeah, they'll have a website to go to and not just enter in our information and then get a blank page.
Yeah, exactly. It's work in progress. So my goal with the podcast is to be part of a more inclusive part of Ranger Nation, where we not only talk about some of the issues going on with the fandom or hard-hitting questions that people want answered, but we kind of want to just make a great podcast for Ranger Nation. Something that people can go to on a every other week basis and get news and get some entertainment from three pretty big Power Ranger fans. This episode we're titling Ranger Roll Call. So we're just gonna introduce ourselves, maybe tell you guys a little bit about what brought us into the fandom, what drives us today, because this show's been going on for 20 years and hopefully it'll go on for another 20. So we'll be here a while.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. I'll be old and talking about Power Rangers. I'll be 90 and my grandkids, and I'll be like, I remember when the show first aired.
Yeah.
So, how we all know each other. Me, I've known Zach for a number of years through the Chicago anime convention scene, and I actually don't remember how we first met, Zach.
I'm wondering if it was that one ASEN that they got a bunch of the cast. Like, maybe we first met there, because I know a bunch of people from Ranger Board. Like, that was a big meetup that we had.
Yeah, that must have been it, because that was ASEN 2008. I just remember a ton of people being there.
Yeah, because that was before Morphicon, right?
That was the year after Morphicon, because the first Morphicon was in 07, was it?
I don't know, because I think it was before Morphicon, because that was my first real, experience meeting some of the people from the board and meeting some of the cast. But now I'm not sure, because, I don't know if it was, Or
was Morphicon 2008 the first one?
I'm going to have
because they've been doing it every 2 years.
I'm going to have to pull it up now. Pardon my typing, but...
Wow, we are great fans, and we don't know when the first Morphicon happened.
Yeah.
But I'm going this year. It'll be my first Power Morphicon.
The first convention took place in Los Angeles, 2007.
I knew it! I am a good Ranger fan.
So, yes, you are. I'm a terrible person.
Morphicon was in 2007, but the Rangers showed up at ACEN in 2008.
Right. And were you at the first Morphicon?
This year will be my first Power Morphicon.
Oh, okay. You're going to have a lot of fun, because, I was at the first one, and that was just nuts.
Yeah, and I heard Austin St. John was there.
I got a funny story about that, if we can diverge from the topic at hand.
By all means, go ahead.
So, I'm at Power Morphicon, and we're down in the bar, a few of us from the board. We're talking with Kelson Henderson and Caitlin Murphy.
Wow.
And they're just like, chatting us up and getting, our, what is your opinion of the show? Why are you guys fans? And this, just being generally personable. And that's kind of how the first con went, because everybody was in such close proximity that you could just, oh, hey, there's, Austin St. John going into the bathroom. There's, And Kelson had said something about a party, and Caitlin then asked us, oh, are you guys going to the party? And the few of us that were there were like, well, we don't know anything about a party. We're just, we're the lower attendees. We don't get the special privileged information. So they said, well, come on, we'll be your ticket in. And I thought, I'm going to go party with the Power Rangers.
That is so awesome.
And so it's the most insane thing. I walk in the suite where the staffers are throwing a party for all the VIPs and everything, and literally the first thing that happens is Austin St. John looks at me and goes, hey man, you having a good time? I said, yeah man, this con's pretty fun. He's like, cool, here. And he hands me a drink, and I'm like, hey, thanks. And I go to take a sip of it. It's Jack Daniels and Coke. And like, the first thing I think is, I don't really like Jack Daniels. And then the second thought that is, hey, the Red Ranger just handed you a drink. You will drink this. And then, like, looking back on it, it's like, if you could tell the 10-year-old me that one day you'll be drinking with the Red Ranger, what? No, that's impossible. But yet, it happened.
That is amazing. And I remember watching the stuff from the first Power Morphicon, like people's videos and tweets. God, was there even back then? No, that was...
I don't think there was Twitter back then, no.
No, because I joined Twitter on like 2008. So, no, it was like on Ranger Board. I remember refreshing Ranger Board, that whole thread, just waiting for people to like post pictures and videos. And I was so jealous I couldn't be there for the first one because of Austin St. John. And I mean, he's like a leprechaun. He is hidden and he's elusive, and he like pops out every now and again and then goes back into wherever, saving people's lives as a firefighter or, being a real Power Ranger. I don't know.
It was so surreal, because it's like, okay, here I am at this convention. And I had gone to the convention not knowing where I was going to stay. Like, I had no plan whatsoever. It was Russell and Matt Jedi who had said, hey, we have space in our room, you can sleep in our room. Thanks, guys, appreciate it. But, like, I went to the con and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't know these people. I am just lost. But it was a good time. And
wow, you totally were winging it.
Oh, yeah. No, I went into that thing without a plan whatsoever. It was like, okay, I have money for a ticket to get into the convention all weekend, and I know where the convention is and how to get there. I have no idea where I will be sleeping. Like, that's the first time I ever just went on a whim like that. Well, I mean, it wasn't even really a whim, because we had heard about it, months and months and months in advance. And I was living in Chicago at the time. However, my dad lives out in Los Angeles, so it was a matter of, hey, Dad, I'm going to come out for a visit for a week. And then that weekend, you're hopping on the train and going into Los Angeles. So.
Wow. My first time meeting Power Rangers at a convention was in 2005 at Youmacon. It's a convention.
That's the big one that I regret, yeah.
Yeah, that was some fun time. So yeah, Youmacon was in Troy, Michigan, and 2005 was their first year. It's actually still going strong. I guess the creator of Youmacon, his name's Morgan. He's on the Ranger board, like, infrequently. But he was a huge Power Rangers fan, but also, like, anime and all that stuff. So he created his own convention. And I don't know how he did it, but he got the SPD Rangers, aside from Matt Austin and Brandon. And he got, like, Greg Aronowitz and Bruce Kalish. And I was like, oh my God, because my parents actually moved to Michigan earlier that month. So I went up to visit them with also the side mission of, yeah, I'm going to Youmacon to meet some Power Rangers. And my brother was 10 at the time. SPD was his first Power Ranger series because he'd seen me watch Power Rangers before when he was younger, but SPD was the first time he really got into it. It was so great because my brother had such a good time. And if I was, because I started watching the show when I was 11, and if I had met Austin St. John and David Yost and all those guys when I was 11, I would have been flipping out. It was so great to experience that through my brother's eyes because he was getting the full experience. It was like, holy crap, these are the Power Rangers right here. And he got to ask some questions, and they had a ton of panels. The major panel that they had towards the end, he actually got to do start the roll call for them. So, you know, he did ready, and then they did ready, SPD emergency with the morphers, and people were like flipping out. So that was my first experience meeting actors from the show. And I also went to a room party. Ranger Board had a room party for Youmacon. It was just going to be the members from Ranger Board. And all the SPD guys heard about it, and they totally crashed the party, and we were glad for them to crash it. So I got to talk with Chris Violette for like a good half hour, just him and me just shooting the shit, and it was just so chill. I was like, man, these guys are just normal people. Like, that was my first, after the initial starstruck, like, oh my God. One thing I'll always remember that he said is, because that was his first convention too. He's like, hey, you know, we're just as nervous to meet you guys, the fans, as you are to meet us. So, you know, let's just be chill and just hang out. So he was such a cool guy. Some good times.
Yeah, I wish I could have gone to that convention because all the stories we heard of, oh man, the SPD Rangers crashed the room party and were just totally cool. It was like, I'm so jealous of you guys for getting to do that. But then, you know, getting to do that myself at Paramorphicon, it was just like, yeah, okay, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. How about you, AP? Have you met any Rangers?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm the
what? This is an outrage.
Sean Johnson tweeted me once. That's all I've got.
I actually know you through Tumblr because you start on Tumblr first, right?
Yes. It wasn't originally going to happen. It's on a whim. Instead of actually doing coursework for college, like, hey, let's start a Power Rangers Tumblr.
There you go. And I was like, Lightspeed Rescue, good taste. I think I'll follow.
Oh gosh.
And then you started the Twitter afterwards, right?
Yes.
Just connecting with Ranger Nation.
Yep. Connecting all over.
So now I would like all of us to kind of share our history in the fandom, how we got into Power Rangers, maybe some of our favorite seasons. You know, what have we done in this grand scheme of Ranger Nation? How about you, Zach?
All right, yeah, sure, I'll give it a whack. So I started with the show when it premiered back in 1993-ish, but I just remember getting into it and being like, this is really cool, I like this. And then, you know, I kind of grew up with it, and like right before Zeo, I remember there was an article in the newspaper about like the Power Rangers phenomenon and how it's originally based on this thing in Japan, and that's when I learned, oh, this isn't, you know, an American production, this is something that they have found in another country and brought over. So like, I thought that was really cool too, and I didn't really get into the Sentai aspect of it until much, much later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up with the Zordon era, as it's lovingly called by the fans, and once that was over with the end of In Space, I kind of fell out of it. I mean, I didn't watch as much, you know, after that. Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, all that kind of fell by the wayside.
Right.
And I didn't get back into it until right before Dino Thunder premiered, because it was all over the internet. Holy cow, Tommy's coming back. That's crazy. And like, I was like, what, really? So I looked it up. That's how I found Ranger Board. That's, you know, how I found the fandom, really. And I realized, oh, there's people that, you know, still watch this show, still love it. That's awesome. So yeah, ever since then it was like, okay, well, I'll get back into it. And I mean, I still haven't really gone back and watched too many of the old seasons, which I know a lot of fans are like, what? That's terrible. You need to watch this, 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 and this. And it's like, I know I do, but I just, you know, there's so many fandoms, so little time.
Yeah, it's like 700 episodes. You have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. So yeah, I got back into it with Dino Thunder, and I thought, oh, okay, that's neat that they're bringing, Jason David Frank back for this, and that he agreed to do it. I originally that was going to be a one-off. I thought, that's enough. But somebody on Ranger Board, and I forget who it is, started talking with me about Super Sentai again, and was like, oh, you need to check this out. This is what's going on right now. It's called Deca Ranger. And I thought, okay, sure, I'll give it a look. And I ended up loving it. I was like, this is awesome. This is what, this is what America makes into Power Rangers. This is awesome source material. So then when it was like, okay, SPD is coming on, I had to watch SPD. And of course, SPD is probably my favorite season. It's way up there. Just because the cast was so great, the writing was great, the general aesthetic to the show was great. The militarized sort of police environment was all very awesome. You mentioned Greg earlier, the writer. I shared a flight with him a couple of years ago, and I only realized it because he was flying with Amy Okuda from the Guild.
Oh, that's when they were going to either C2E2 or Wizard World.
It was C2E2, yeah.
Yeah.
I was flying in from Los Angeles because I was there doing a thing, and was like, okay, I'm going to miss Friday C2E2, but that's okay. I'll fly in that night, do a red eye, and just go to the con on Saturday. And ended up literally sitting across the aisle from them. And we had talked a bit in the airport before departure. And I was like, oh, yeah, you guys going to C2E2? Yeah, that's cool. Because I had recognized her, but I didn't want to be like, that weird fan who's like, oh, you're awesome. So that's my creepy fan impression. So, so I was just like, oh yeah, me too, to be fun. And they said, oh yeah, we have a booth, and come check it out. Oh yeah, I totally will. So I found a break in my day where I went to the booth and, remembered that was Greg, and I was, oh man, hey, I'm a big fan of yours too. All the work you did for, SPD was fantastic. One of my favorite seasons, and I got a nice picture with the both of them. It was always nice to be able to see the people who worked on the thing you love and be able to, thank them in person.
Yeah, I went to that C2E2, and I know Greg was there for the Guild and helping promote that. But it was kind of funny because when I went over to that booth, I didn't even care. I didn't want Amy Okuda's autograph. I was like, Greg. And I kind of mentioned to him, I was like, oh yeah, I met you at 2005 Youmacon. And so we started talking a little bit about that. And I actually brought the first volume of SPD for him to autograph, and he was just like, oh wow, really? You have this? And he kind of turned to, or one of his friends was like, that was working the booth, he's like, what is that? He's like, oh yeah, it's the show I worked on, and oh yeah, here's my name on the back as executive producer and director for these episodes. I think I didn't weird him out, but he was just it was so unexpected, not expecting to have a fan of SPD at the show at the booth. And so that was pretty cool. And I actually saw him again 2013 C2E2. He was there. So we talked a little bit about it, and that's when news was first starting to come out about the Gokaiger Super Mega Force season. And I'd ask him a couple things like, what's going on with Super Mega Force? Are they bringing you back? And he was pretty adamant. He's like, Saban really doesn't want any people from the Disney era back. Call me for anything. And he's like, I've got Doggy Kruger's head sitting in my garage. And so I'm like, oh, why haven't they contacted Greg? Yeah, it's really cool interacting with the people who make the show.
That's exactly it. And I mean, the funny thing is, so the show, the first couple of seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was filmed kind of around Santa Clarita, Valencia area, which is where I lived at the time.
Wow.
The first encounter I ever had with any of the cast members was meeting Jason David Frank at the local Target store.
What, like in 94?
Yeah, right when he was doing Green Ranger was either in full swing or was just on the way out. My mom worked at Target at the time, and she said, oh yeah, that Power Ranger show you love? Well, the Green Ranger's always in the store. And I said, you're kidding me. I said, I have to meet him. So one day we were in the store, and he happened to be in the store, and my mom went up to him and said, oh, my son's a huge fan, and would it be okay to meet him? And he said, oh yeah, sure, of course. He was there shopping with his, wife at the time or whatever. And so yeah, that's the very first time I ever got to meet any of the Power Rangers, and I was just like, this is insane. I'm meeting Jason David Frank at a Target, of all the places. Something like that is just one of those great memories that I will always have. Santa Clarita is, even still today, a major filming area just because it's in the valley, so it's local to everything, really. And the fact that it was like, okay, there's Power Rangers filming. I distinctly remember an episode of VR Troopers where they filmed at the park that I always went to. And so, like, every time I would go to the park, I'd be like, there's where they fought the Skugs, and there's that, and that's where she swung that and kicked the guy. I'm gonna stop rambling now.
All right, now, how about you, AP?
I didn't actually get into it until about Turbo, because that's when I was old enough to really follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all because I got hand-me-down toys from a friend of the family. Like, oh, this is neat. And then I figured out what they were all about. Started watching Power Rangers on accident. And then then I sort of, I want to say I dropped off. Like, I watched In Space. And yeah, I didn't really watch Lost Galaxy. I was never really a fan of it. And I'm still not. And then Lightspeed Rescue. That's still my favorite. That's when I really was, like, obsessed with Power Rangers as a kid. I remember saving up for weeks all of my birthday and holiday money to buy the Nintendo and Game Boy games. And I would just sit on the Nintendo all day on the weekend trying to unlock the Titanium Ranger at the end of the game because I was not cool enough to have one of those save packs.
Oh, so you had to play the game all the way through every time?
Yes. I did that several times. My parents were obviously not very happy with me. But then I sort of watched Time Force after that, but it was not steady until Wild Force. I watched all of that. Then I never really watched Ninja Storm until it went into, like, the rerun phase a couple years after that.
Mm-hmm.
But Dino Thunder, I watched all of that because I remembered Tommy. So that was a thing. That was one of my favorite seasons. It still is. The whole going back to high school thing, really relatable.
That was, for a lot of people, that was kind of, I think, a starting point for a lot of Ranger Nation as it is now for some of the older fans.
Yeah, that's when I got back into it. Then I actually took a break again around Mystic Force. I didn't watch much of that. Then I just watched the team-up episode of the Operation Overdrive.
It's really all anyone needs to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd watched a couple other episodes. It just wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, I didn't actually watch much after that until Samurai. I'm not one of those people who watched every episode, and I still haven't seen a lot of some seasons. Sort of one of those sporadic fans. Just pop up every now and then, lurk on Ranger Board every once in a while, buy some stuff, chime in when I'm not needed. You know?
Well, now you're in it. Now you're doing a podcast. You're in it to win it.
I can't get out now.
You try to get out, but we'll pull you back in.
Yeah, I was just going to same reference.
I'm so stuck.
Yeah, as for me, Zach, it's kind of similar. We kind of have similar stories. I was watching from the beginning. 1993, it started out as a really bad year. I was 11, and in May of that year, my grandfather passed away, and all of my family is up in, like, the North Midwest, so I was actually born and raised in Georgia, because my dad was like, I need to get away from the family, I'll just move to Georgia, because I like it. So me and my sister grew up in Georgia, and when my grandfather passed, my dad made the decision to move back to Illinois to be closer to family and closer to my grandma and that stuff. Here it is, 1993, first day of 6th grade, I'm the new kid, and then it sucked, because everyone already had their cliques that they grew up with since kindergarten, and, being the new kid, and it was just horrible. And then Power Rangers premiered a couple weeks after school started. Everyone was into it. And when the Green Ranger saga happened, Green with Evil, that was like, people couldn't stop talking about it. I was hooked from the beginning because I was always a big fan of anime and, like, Godzilla and all those, like, Mystery Science Theater and just... So I knew about, like, Japanese monsters and stuff, but it was something I never really connected with other people until Power Rangers. Power Rangers for me was, like, my in to not be the new kid anymore. Like, to make friends, to have something in common with everyone else in class. I actually related a lot to Tommy in the Green with Evil saga. I mean, he was the new kid. He was starting out in school, and he didn't know anyone. And so I really identified with that. And since, it was already kind of a, rough year with moving and my grandfather and all that stuff, Power Rangers just helped me through that time. I watched pretty much all the way, like you guys, into In Space, and then kind of dropped out of it. But that was because of like high school and graduating and then going to college. And so there was a number of years where I didn't see the show because I was busy when it was airing. And I remember catching a few episodes here and there, like Time Force, and I thought that was pretty cool. But again, it was just like on the off chance that I had a day off and, oh yeah, there's Power Rangers. It wasn't until 2004 with Dino Thunder and Tommy coming back. That's when also I connected with Ranger Board and I was like, man, there are a lot of people who still like this show. 2004, when I heard about Sentai and started getting into that, I was watching Deca Ranger as it aired, and that was the first time I was like downloading subs and finding TV Nihon and all that stuff. Deca Ranger had me from the beginning. I started going nuts on the collecting. I collect toys. My dad's a toy collector, and with Deca Ranger, it was like I had a stable job after college, got my own money to spend, and I went nuts. It was like I was importing so much from Japan. It was insane. Because I still lived with my parents like a year after college just because I was starting up my job, and this was before they moved to Michigan. And my mom was just like, oh, here's another package from Japan. It was like every other day I was getting someone. And so I went through this collecting phase where I collected everything I could get my hands on, from Deca Ranger, SPD, Maji Ranger, and Mystic Force, and then Bokanger and Operation Overdrive. It was kind of insane. And then, yeah, it was just like I didn't stop after Dino Thunder. For a couple of years after Overdrive and Bokanger, I kind of slowed down on the collecting like big time because I was like, yeah, I'm paying student loans and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that'll put a hamper on the collecting.
Oh yeah, big time. But now with, the anniversary season and all the legacy stuff, and because I had some of the Megazords when I was a kid, I remember getting my dad getting me Thunder Assault Team, like the Die Ranger, and I got the White Tiger Zord for Christmas. But then somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened to those toys. I don't know where they went. So I've been slowly building up my childhood collection. And when they started releasing the Legacy stuff last year, I was like, oh my God, my wallet again.
Yeah, really. When I first saw the Legacy Morpher, like my first thought was, okay, I'm gonna have to give up a kidney, just because it was, like you said, it hit us right in the childhood, and it was like, okay, that's something I need to own. Mm-hmm. And so I would search constantly every day, go to Toys R Us, and maybe they'll have it in stock. And like they never would, and it was just terrible. I finally went once and I had them in stock, but I did not have the money, and it was just like the worst feeling in the world. And it's like, I could go into debt for this thing, but that's probably not the responsible thing to do. And that's like the first time my buddy was like, dude, you're more adult right now than you've ever been in your life. And I was like, I know, it sucks. Luckily, it was the weekend of a small comic book convention in the area that I was at, and I happened to run into Jordan, who's a friend of mine from Ranger Board, who I have seen multiple times.
Oh, yeah, I know Jordan.
Yeah. I had told him, oh, yeah, the Target over here in Aurora has the Legacy Morphers in stock, and I said, yeah, I wanted to get one, but I don't have the money. He's like, really? He's like, well, do you want me to go get you one? And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I'll go get you one now, and then you just PayPal me the money when you have it. And I said, are you sure? He's like, dude, it's no problem. An hour later, he came back and was like, here you go. And it was just like, so yeah, it was like, okay, I'm happy now. I have my Morpher. Of course, I sent him the money the next week, and I was just like, okay, I'm a kid again. I have my awesome Legacy Morpher that I will never ever stop playing with. It always sits right here at my computer desk. Yeah, it's great. I love that this year these past couple of years have been all about the sort of legacy and all the stuff that we grew up on is coming back.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people. There are some parts of Ranger Nation, I think maybe some of the younger parts, that are like, oh, the freaking nostalgia of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. No one cares. Like, bleh. I know Mighty Morphin gets a lot of flack for just being the first sometimes. I say screw that, because that is my childhood. Like I don't care if I've got nostalgia glasses on or whatever people say. It's like, it will always be what got me into the show. Just like, my brother's first season was SPD. AP, yours was Turbo. When people give other seasons all this crap, I'm just like, but it's someone's first, or it's someone's favorite. Every season is someone's first or someone's favorite. Just don't overly bash something because it might be the best thing in the world to someone.
I don't like Mighty Morphin that much, but I'm not going to go tell someone they're wrong for loving it, because it's just not cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing that happens, like, in a lot of fandoms, is you get people who will, I hate this aspect of it, or I hate that thing, or this thing. If you have so much hate for a thing, why even bother being in
part
the
of
fandom?
it?
Why bring it up? Exactly.
I'm a big Star Trek fan too. Like, I am a Trekkie. I was a Trekkie before I was into Power Rangers. That's it. The fandom over there is just like that in some ways. It's like, you've got the older people that are like, the original series and everything after it is shit. And then you've got, like, the next generation people that are like, TNG is the best. But that's the thing. We're all part of the same community, so don't knock someone's favorite thing.
I'm probably the worst Star Trek fan, because my favorite season is Voyager and my least favorite is DS9.
I love Voyager, and I get so much crap on it on my Star Trek podcast because they're all like TNG and Deep Space Nine, but I'm like, there was something about Voyager. I watched that live every night.
I was the same way. I was the exact same way. And it's like, and there are things about that, like with Power Rangers. I had a buddy who was like, I was never really into Power Rangers as a kid. And he said, I know you like it, and I know James, our other friend, likes it a lot. So what would you recommend for somebody who never really watched Power Rangers? What should I watch? I told him, watch SPD, watch RPM. You will get a kick out of those seasons because they're more, I hesitate to use the word mature or dark, but really, I mean, they were. Because you had storylines that were...
I think they're more universal in a way.
They're more solid.
I remember Greg saying at Youmacon, he's like, if you took away the spandex suits and the big giant robots, you would still have a sci-fi police space show.
Exactly. And the storylines, too. We had things like Doggy Kruger's wife, who he thought was dead all this time, is actually just being kidnapped. And you had these storylines that wouldn't be out of place on a primetime drama show.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, with RPM, the whole thing about humanity is at its last stand, the machines are winning, we are backs against the wall, it's not looking good. It had this storyline of the humans triumphing, obviously. And it was real interesting because, a lot of people are like, it's, Power Rangers, the Terminator season.
But that season had so much humor.
It really
and
did, yeah.
was poking fun at Power Rangers so much. I hate to call that a dark season because it poked fun at itself so much, and it was such a fun show just overall.
It really was, and you're exactly right. The humor that Ziggy brought, and of course Dr. K. And by the way, can I just say I'm so glad that they actually ended up together in real life, because that's my fandom ship right there. That's my ship out to sea.
I think that's everyone's ship that actually was successful in real life.
Again, the self-referential humor.
I lost it when they're like big, giant, googly anime eyes on the Zords. Like, what is that about?
That whole scene of Dr. K answering questions is absolutely hysterical. And even, shout-outs to the source material with their RV being called the Go-Onger.
Oh my god. I recently did a RPM rewatch last weekend, the entire season, through the Legacy collection. Man, I wish Saban Power Rangers was this good, like Neo Saban or whatever people are calling it. The second wave.
Yeah.
It's good in its own way, the Neo, quote-unquote, Saban era. I've seen most of Samurai, most of Super Samurai, all of Megaforce. It's sort of like they're dipping their toe back into it kind of gradually. here we have these young actors who are trying to, they're going for that whole high school kind of age thing again. And I think it's just going to take some time to sort of get back into the swing of things for them. Because again, Saban hasn't owned the property since 2002?
No, 2001.
2001, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people were really ragging on the Disney era for a while there. And, it would be so much better if,
You don't realize what you've got till it's gone.
Exactly.
It actually wasn't that bad after all.
Yeah. I remember people giving a lot of crap to Mystic Force. You go back and watch that, it's like, I'll take Mystic Force or even Overdrive over the first season of Samurai any day.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree in that it's a lot rough around the edges, but I think that the potential is there.
Yeah, and even as bad as Samurai is panned, the toy sales were through the roof. It resonated with a lot of kids. I have no doubt that Saban knows what they're doing. The stuff that they've done for the 20th anniversary last year, just through promoting it, and promoting it so well, because Nickelodeon isn't doing anything to promote this show. Mm-hmm. Saban Brands knows what they're doing to market a show. They did this 20 years ago, and I know they're trying to recapture that magic. There are a lot of kids that got into Power Rangers because of Samurai. I know a friend of mine has a kid, and when Megaforce came on, they were like, yeah, but where's Jaden? Where's Samurai? So I think they're starting to build. For a franchise like this, you have to continually build your fan base because it's that age demographic. You have that window of opportunity, and you either capture them in that window and keep them.
Yeah,
and that's exactly right. I mean, the thing about the post-Zordon Saban era where we started having the cast change with every season is pretty much why I fell out of it, because it was like, okay, this is a new cast of characters that I will have absolutely no connection to. Now is a good time to get out of the fandom.
Mm-hmm. I think after Countdown to Destruction, with that Zordon dying and all of that, personally, it was just, well, now I'm in high school and I'm doing my own thing and I got to work now, and it was a natural point to just phase out of that fandom. I think for a lot of the older fans, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to add in terms of talking about yourselves?
I think this was a pretty good introductory podcast, and I'm sure that, next time we get together to record, we will have a few topics to really sink our teeth into.
We're just like Saban, getting back into it.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like Saban, and people may hate us at first, but we'll capture that audience.
Our podcast.
No, don't say that. This podcast is already better than all of Samurai.
Well, I was joking on Twitter earlier that, because, we were having all these technical difficulties trying to get started. I said, it's okay. We'll recast Secret Ranger Fan, and we'll change the setting of the podcast, and we'll give me a drastic makeover, and then we'll release this version of the podcast as a lost episode.
This is our Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. It's out of continuity.
It is. Yes.
I'm totally going to be working on Overdrive, pardon the pun, this weekend on getting a site up.
Zing.
Yeah. So, yay.
I thought you were going to say you're going to rewatch that. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
I am not going to be touching that for a while. I may get bored and be like, oh, what kind of hell do I want to put myself into today?
Yeah.
Overdrive
drinking game.
That would probably make it better. Maybe.
I think that would kill me.
Drink.
I don't think my liver can take that much abuse.
Drink every time it's alluded to that Mac is a robot. Oh god, I'm going to be drunk.
Every time Dax says something stupid, oh god, my liver.
Drink every time Ronnie gets excited over a new Zord.
Well, that's the whole season.
Yep.
You've been listening to the Ranger Command Power Hour, only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You can catch a new episode every other Saturday. Find us on the Morphing Grid at www.rangercommand.com. Follow us on Twitter at Ranger Command PH and like us on Facebook.com/Ranger Command Power Hour.